sleep horror, where silence whispers, shadows breathe, and fear lives in the spaces between your thoughts. If you're new here, consider subscribing. If you're already part of this strange little family, welcome back. Tonight's story is not about ghosts or monsters. It's about something far more intimate, something you've likely felt, but never dared to name. This is The Voice Beneath, Nightmarish Tales of the Paranormal, a psychological descent, a confession, a mirror held up to the mind when no one else is listening. If you've ever lain awake in the middle of the night and heard something, this story might not just scare you, it might recognize you. Like, subscribe, and listen closely. It started with a sound I wasn't supposed to hear. Not a scream, not a knock, just a murmur. A soft, almost tender echo that came not from the walls, but from somewhere far more private. Somewhere inside. Have you ever heard something with your mind instead of your ears? That night, the apartment was quiet in that dead, underwater way, as if the air itself was afraid of making a noise. And yet, beneath that silence, something breathed. I didn't know it yet, but I had tuned into a frequency that sanity avoids. The sound wasn't loud, it wasn't even clear, but it knew my name, not the one people call me on the street, but the name I haven't heard since childhood. The way my mother whispered it when I was sick. That kind of name. The one that feels like home, even when home is gone. And that's when I knew. This sound wasn't a hallucination. It was a memory that hadn't finished speaking. I thought of Poe's The Telltale Heart, not for the heartbeat, but for the guilt. For that inner noise that grows louder the more you pretend it's not there. The scariest part wasn't the sound itself. It was what came after it stopped, because silence is never really silent. That was the first night. After that, every noise in the house became personal. The fridge wasn't humming. It was murmuring. The creak of the ceiling wasn't the house settling. It was a footstep. My brain turned up the volume on everything, like it was trying to warn me of something I couldn't see. There's a word for it. Hyperacusis. A condition where your brain amplifies normal sounds as if they were threats. But what scared me wasn't the condition. It was the realization that my own body decided the world was dangerous without asking for my permission. You try to tell yourself it's all in your head. But what happens when the head is the place you fear most? When no one else hears it, does that make it less real or more yours? I began to understand that our minds are just rooms, and sometimes we hear things trapped in the walls, like old regrets, like names we thought we forgot. And those names, they whisper. I started reading stories, urban legends, people hearing voices in the pillow just before falling asleep, whispers in the basement, murmurs from inside their closet. Most people laugh them off, but I started to see the pattern. These weren't just ghost stories. They were emotional code. They were grief that found a voice. Because when we lose someone, the brain doesn't just grieve. It tries to fill the silence. And sometimes it fills it wrong. I remember after my grandmother died, I kept hearing her. Same time every night. Same voice, soft, delicate, not asking for anything, just calling my name. They say it's normal, a way of coping. But she smiled when I answered, not with words, with cold air, with stillness. And I realized silence is a wound, and wounds echo. One night something called to me from the bathroom, my father's voice. but he's been gone for 7 years. Not his ghost, his voice, his tone, the way he used to call me when he was too tired to shout. I froze in front of the mirror. I could hear my name from inside it, not through the air, but through the memory of how it used to sound. Later I read about internal voice identity disorder, where your mind gives your inner monologue a separate voice, a separate identity. But this wasn't science. This was guilt. This was something inside me putting on the face of someone I never got to say goodbye to. My inner voice started saying things I didn't recognize, and I started wondering if it was even my voice anymore. That's when I started recording myself while I slept. At first, it was curiosity. I wanted to hear if I talked in my sleep, if the whispers were real. The fourth night at 3:03 a.m., I heard myself whisper, "He's listening now." It was my voice, clear, calm, but I never said that. The next night, "Don't look at the window, he's still there." Each night, the whispers got closer, and then a second voice, quieter, wetter, like something breathing through a damp cloth. I became obsessed, recording, listening, rewinding. And the more I listened, the less I slept. The voices started knowing things. My childhood nickname, memories I hadn't thought of in decades. One night, I whispered back, and something answered, not with words, but with presence, like I had opened a door inside myself, and something had been waiting. I lost track of what was real, what was internal, because when you give the darkness attention, it speaks. And when it speaks with your own voice, you can't unhear it. Now, the sound doesn't come from the outside. It hums beneath my skin. It's not a voice anymore. It's a presence. And every innocent sound, the fridge, the pipes, the floorboards, they all speak the same language now. A warning, a prophecy, or maybe a memory I haven't lived yet. Because when the sound enters, it doesn't leave. It settles. It changes you. It waits. And the real terror isn't that you hear voices. It's realizing they've been trying to talk to you all along. And the only thing that kept you safe was not listening.